Welcome back to the Flogsville podcast. We're here. It's Wednesday night. It's cold outside. Not for everyone, not for all our coaches. So round 16, another eventful round on the cards. Looking forward to joining me are a couple of coaches this week. It's been a little bit like the Western Bulldogs midfield, boys. We've had a lot of people running through, but not a lot of end product at the end of it. Not sure if that comparison works, but we'll roll with it. Coach are phenomenal. Hello, Tom.
Hello, Scott. Good to be with you after a hiatus.
Yeah.
And we certainly back deep in the podcast hosting sort of ranks here at Flogsville. So, no shortage. Second and third stringers are still just as good as the first couple, I would have thought.
Absolutely, mate. And joining you also has been missing for a few weeks, coach of the Rabbitohs. Hello, Daniel.
Hello, Scott. Fantastic to be back. And, interesting timing that Tom and I are joining after both claiming victory on the weekend. But people can read into that what they think. But, fantastic to be back.
Beautiful, boys. Well, let's get stuck into it. And we always start, of course, with a positive. And our pick of the week, fair to say, the Glen Manton Fan Club, an outstanding score. We saw some high scoring this week, but a 24-32, boys. Bearing in mind, you guys will dive into this a little bit deeper, but as an owner of Dane Zorko also, to have his six there, a fantastic effort from Sean, really, to deliver an awesome score, boys.
Quite incredible, to be honest, considering he's had two players, if you include Butler, two players contributing for a total of 39 and scoring 2,432. Is a massive score. So he just sort of had all the big movers this week, really, like Jack Sinclair in the back line with his 140, holding on to Nick Dacos with a 117, Lockie Neal, Petrarca, Oliver, Wines, McCluggage, Miller, O'Brien, just guys going massive. That's really what it's come down to, because he's had two who missed out badly, but huge score for Sean and a big win, which we'll cover later as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about midfields that run deep. Looking at that midfield from the weekend, Sam Walsh, unfortunately the outlier with an 87, but everyone else going 112 or above, and some huge scores there. So, very impressive work in the engine room there from Sean's midfield.
Fantastic, boys, and congratulations to Sean. Fantastic score, and like you said, Rabs, we'll get into his matchup because there were some really key results here. And we'll start with one that was the top four battle. It was the Crouching Lions with a 23-21 getting the job done over, my God, your Liberatore. A huge matchup between these two, but the Crouching Lions just getting it done, boys. What did you see here in this matchup?
Yeah, Hugh's been in some reasonable form. He's obviously confronted a few challenges in terms of injury, and you see there both coaches in the ruck department with Jackson and English on field for both causing some concern. Really, I guess hard to split looking at the results there, and likely the captaincy selection obviously contributing to that. But two again massive scores. Quite difficult to sort of separate the two.
Yeah, very, very even, really. I think the captaincy choice probably appears to be the main difference, really. Quite an unusual scorecard. I think I'm right in saying that every single pod scored over 100.
Yeah, you are correct.
I don't think I've ever seen that before. So we are talking fine margins. Obviously, both copping a 0 as well. So still producing pretty good scores considering that fact. But if you check out the ladder, pretty important win. And we say it every year, Brett just gets the job done, and he's always around the mark. He had a bit of a slow start again, and he's really put himself in a strong position now for the top four, which is really, other than obviously Ben at the top, the other spots are very, very even for second, third, and fourth.
Beautifully put, Rabs. I think the Crouching Lions once again just setting himself up beautifully, and nothing for Hugh. I think just a minor sort of blip. Like you boys said, I think for them both to produce that sort of score, they're going to be there or thereabouts, those two sides. So fantastic matchup. Let's move on to the B Sharps, really with a surprise victory. We sort of talked about this last week in our preview that this one could go either way, but a crucial win for Dale's boys, who just keep in touch with the 22-73, just getting a 24 or 23 point win there. What did you see in this one, boys?
2 words, Scott. Callum Mills.
Yeah.
That's all that needs to be said. A man who has bit people on the arse in the past, and he's done it again this week. So good on you, Callum. So yeah, 54 as captain. Liam's done pretty well to only lose by 20, to be honest, in that circumstance. That's literally wrecked his round. Obviously, Zorko on Dale's side, in some ways evening it up, but just a little bit too good.
Yeah, Mulesy will be quite disappointed with that result. He's, I think, lost 2 or 3 in a row now, which really puts his finals chances in danger. Looking to sort of lose touch with that pack that are competing for the 7th and 8th spot. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes the last couple of rounds of the home and away season. But finals, now looking a challenge for Mulesy.
Absolutely. And just having looked through, Dale, a few pods here went pretty well, but it was mostly the damage of Riley O'Brien, Oliver and Petrarca. That game was just a points fest, really, and Laird and Dawson on the other side for Liam. Just getting the job done, and the unfavourable conditions with the Giants-Hawks game maybe just affecting Sicily's score. And Jack Crisp as a pod is, a bit disappointing score for him, and he's has missed out the last couple of weeks. So, but a big win for Dale, and Liam just hanging on, isn't he? Sort of every game's an elimination final for him. So we'll get into that, boys, a little bit later. But now we move on. We talked about the Glen Mountain Fan Club and their wonderful score. And it knocked off McRae, You've Done It Again, who themselves scored a pretty respectable 23-42 here, boys. Let's just talk about Sam's sort of side and see. Jordan De Goey stands out, doesn't he?
Yeah, like Dog's Bowl, Scott. Not a great performance from Jordan. Obviously, coming back from Bali, mentioned he was doing the right things over there, but it doesn't appear to be the case with a 37. It doesn't appear to be able to get his hands on the footy on the weekend. But, be very disappointed with that result with Sam. Massive score, and obviously, being toppled by Sean, who's, as we've touched on, midfield went bananas. Potentially just a reliance on, a couple of rookies there as well in McComb and Weir, who are still on field. So, again, we see this stage of the season where there's quite a few complete teams going around with seasoned campaigners on field. Those teams with the rookies still remaining, finding it challenging when they're a little bit more unreliable.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. I think we've already sort of touched on Sean's team and what went well there. But Sam not doing a huge amount wrong, but clearly those 2 rookies are something he'd be looking to address. Looking at his bench, though, you've got the likes of English and Jackson that are roaming around there. So I think clearly got the capability to get to that sort of complete team scenario, but still in a very strong position though, Sam, although he'd be disappointed to drop this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, English and Jackson both confirmed to come back this week. So Sam's still looking very nice in that top 4. All right, boys. Our next matchup, well, what a roller coaster this was. It was the Burton-Burt Burtons losing to my boys by a slim margin there. But Thursday night, I was fortunate enough to be at school formal. So I had no idea. I was blissfully unaware of what was going on at the Gabba. And then I was sort of saw that later in the night that Zane Zorko had done his hamstring, and it's kind of funny that I'd sort of the day before I thought about making him emergency, and sort of I had a feeling, I don't know, it was just like I felt like he could re-injure himself on maybe like a 40 or a 50. I didn't end up doing it, and then I was kicking myself all weekend. Fortunate enough, Callum Mills on Saturday afternoon gave me a glimmer of hope just seeing his score at halftime, he had 17, I think, was unbelievable. And then, just as the weekend went on, sort of give myself a bit of a chance. And then watching closely the Giants-Hawks game, seeing Lockie Whitfield have the ball on a string in those conditions took me by surprise. And then I was fortunate enough to have some plans Sunday night. So I didn't know the result until much later, which was great to come out on top. Huge win for my boys, as we're both right on the edge and the cusp of finals. So, yeah, massive. Unlucky for Brad. Callum Mills has cost him, unfortunately.
Yeah, crucial game, as you said, Scott. One of those real 8-point sort of games, as they often say. But I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of the analysis. But yeah, I think throughout long stages of the weekend, your boys were not looking in the strongest of positions, and to pull out that win is got to be very pleasing, because it shores up that 8th spot at the moment. It's very tight. There's some very good teams who have normally been consistent finals participants who are currently not in the 8. So the pressure is really on those in that bottom half of the 8 in particular.
I've noticed on Strava that coach of the BBBs, Brad, has been hammering the Zwift, the virtual cycling. So a bit of shades of Neil Craig there. Another head coach who's renowned for really enjoying the cycling as a form of fitness. So really leading the way there, Brad. So hopefully that sort of off-field fitness can translate into some on-field results for him and his team shortly.
Oh, absolutely. I love that bit of intel there, Fenno. That's fantastic. But yeah, he would have scored magnificent, and he still had Sam Doherty underperformed. Himmelberg was, the conditions didn't suit him. His role was still good. And then, just really unlucky. Callum Mills versus Essendon, you'd think he would at least pump out 110 plus, and to deliver a 54 was a disaster. So we'll move on. It was the Guns and Rosies who, again, keep getting the job done, boys. They comfortably beat the midfielders this week. A nice 23-76 for Ben's side, sitting pretty at top of the ladder. Talk us through this one, boys.
Yeah, pretty strong score again on Ben's side, which has been pretty consistent. Well, that's an understatement. He's 13-0, so very consistent this season. Dealing with obviously it didn't have to do with the captaincy side of things, but still had Callum Mills with the 50. And getting a score near 2,400 is probably a sign of where his side's at. You sort of flick through his side and there's really, we're talking about complete teams. He's probably got some things he'd like to change about his team, but there's certainly no rookies on field, which is, again, an indication of where he's at. On Mids' side, some players producing some good scores. Obviously, Walsh as captain was a bit of a disaster for Mids and still running around with a few rookies, which is making life probably a little bit tougher for him. But shown some good signs this season, Mids, and has claimed some important wins. But not good enough this week.
Hat watch at 127 by the looks for the Guns and Rosies. So one to watch there. Obviously, looks like he'll finish top of the league and cruise through the finals pretty comfortably. So obviously focus on that cap. Hopefully he can bring one home on behalf of the league. I think we're all behind him there.
We wish him well, as always. Let's move on, boys, to our next matchup. It was, we skipped Spud of the week, and I think we'll continue to do that because it was the Sisterhoods with a nice 23-35, destroying the total Eclipse of the Heart. Fielding a 0, unfortunately, with Braden Bruce not being picked and the Luke Jackson issue. The Sisterhoods fielding their first donut, which they were mostly disappointed with. They were very devastated to field a donut, but they still got the job done, boys. Jack Sinclair, outstanding.
Can't help but fear there might be some sort of karma coming back after one of the tiles of the YouTube video in weeks gone by with Rabs with his Port Elliot donuts. Usually, coming back to bite them there. But none too pleased when Luke Jackson was a laid out. Very disappointed with that one being an inclusion the week prior and performing so well. But regardless, they continued to tick along nicely despite those issues, and posting some really strong scores. So again, will be one to watch come finals.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Strong score, especially considering the zero. To be in the mid 2300s is a very strong performance, and they've just continued to improve as the year's gone on. Can't help but notice, Scotty, that in the current ladder positions, if things were to finish the way they are, that it would involve a Sisterhoods versus Sarong's elimination final, which I'm sure there would be a massive build-up for, but still a few weeks to go before that point.
Yeah, that would be an exciting matchup. Just want to give one of the coaches, Coach Alex, a bit of a kudos, because she's been fantastic. Their captaincy of the Sisterhoods in the last 3 or 4 weeks has really turned a corner, and they seem to be getting it right week after week, and Took Miller was reliable as ever. So I just wanted to give a little bit of shout out to Alex there for her captaincy choices. All right, let's move on to your matchup, Rabs. Good score, 23-59. Beating the Keys, who have just dropped away a little bit in the last few weeks. Talk us through this one, mate.
It helped not having 3 donuts this week like last week, so that was handy to actually manage to get a full side out there. Admittedly, one of them was Cheetahs, I think that's how you pronounce his name, the Gold Cup. 23. Probably was hoping he might just get like a 50 or a 60, just something a little bit better. But
just game time, please, Stewie Jew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
see a lot of it. Yeah. Unfortunately, Stewie Jew mustn't have watched much of the SNFL the last couple of years, where he's been pumping out big scores for the Eagles. But important win. We're sort of on the cusp, which I'm sure we'll get to later. Very poor points for tally for my boys. So wins are critical in terms of ladder position. So, this was an important one to tick off. Jake had a few things not quite go right for him, and including building a zero. So, just a nice win to tick off and move forward.
Yeah, an important win for the Rabbitohs. Obviously, considering some of the issues they've faced in recent weeks in terms of injuries, and Jake has certainly been a strong competitor this season. And is continuing through to finals. So, a few of his players there probably not having the capacity to max out in scoring. Saligo, Green's a notorious overhandballer, so unfortunately, again, he's one that didn't go massive. Wits he'd be disappointed in. So, don't discount Jake. I think you could still create some upsets leading to finals. But an important win for the Rabbitohs.
Excellent analysis, boys. Let's move on to your matchup, Tom. You're on a roll at the moment with a 23-72, showing some really top form at the moment, just getting things done as we approach finals, mate. A big score and a nice win.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Good win to continue on that winning form. I guess leading into the game, went in as favourites and thought we might be within a fair chance of getting a win. Peter G certainly maybe made me earn it in the end. He had a really strong performance with some of his players. Nick Dacos was one that I've got rid of a long time ago, unfortunately, and went really well. Petrarca as well went enormous. But I think there was a couple of key games, being the Melbourne game and also the Giants Hawthorn game, where a lot of my players went massive. So really carried me through to a good score there.
Absolutely. No, fantastic, boys. You go, Rab. Sorry, mate.
No, I'm done. I was just filling in. So please push on.
All right, let's move on then to our last matchup. We had Hoffleberry FC, after their fantastic win last week, got destroyed, let's be honest, by Team Golden Child with an impressive performance from Team GC. The Lockie Neal, vice captain, love to see that in action. Well done, Zach, there. And then, boys, Ben Keys did well for Surge, but just Pendles and Witsy and Connor Rosie and, of course, Callum Mills and Isaac Heaney as pods there, not performing for Surge. But on Zach's side, what caught your eye, boys?
Pretty surprised we haven't heard more about this matchup from Zach, to be honest. A 340-point drubbing of Hofflebury. Something we haven't quite said about Team GC over the previous few years we've been doing this competition. So, yeah, things are looking up for Team GC. I think they're 5-8, which I know doesn't sound amazing, but after a tough start to the season, they've been a pretty strong side. And, yeah, looking at the side, it's a pretty well-balanced side now. Obviously, Dan Houston was disappointing for him with 47. But to get a 23-70 when you've got a 47 on the field, I think is something to be very happy with. And on Surge's side, yeah, just as you said, you sort of got too many of those guys who just had stinkers, really, with Heaney, Mills in particular, even guys like Brayshaw, Cripps and Houston as well, just making life hard for Surge. And Pendlebury with his 75.
Yeah, two common owners there, who's been really impressive over the last month. So, although a matching player, he's performing really well for both those sides. So, yeah, again, one to keep an eye on for the remainder of the season.
Excellent, boys. All right, let's look ahead to this round 17, and we've got some tasty fixtures, boys, and some really important fixtures. And we start with the Crouching Lions up against Smith's Cripps. Must win for the Cripps, you would say, to try and break in to that top 8. This is pretty much an elimination final, whereas the Crouching Lions will be looking at that 2nd and 3rd spot, and they're just in wonderful form, boys.
This is a huge game. I think Smith's Cripps have been a regular premiership contender, sometimes premiership winner as well, is worth adding. And yeah, strong possibility of them not playing finals, particularly if they lose this game. So lots on the line. As we said, two very traditionally strong sides. So Jackson and English, coming back in is going to change the look of it. I think I'm going to lean just towards the Crouching Lions, but I think it's going to be really tight, particularly with English coming back in for Liam.
I think I'll go the other way. My money's on Liam this week to cause a bit of an upset and keep his season alive. I feel like some of the matchups, maybe lean a bit better in his favour. Laird v Hawthorn potentially could go well. Whereas, some of those D's players up against Geelong might find it difficult down at Cardinia Park. So, yeah, it'll be a very tight matchup, but I'll lean with Smith's Cripps.
Yeah, I tend to agree, Tom. I think Callum Mills bounced back this week. I think that'll definitely be a thing. We've seen that all throughout this year, that when players have a down week, more often than not, they bounce back and they go big. So I wouldn't be surprised if Callum Mills pulls out what he can do. And then, Andy Brayshaw. Rowan Marshall's a bit of a unique one in terms of, obviously he picked him up when Paddy Ryder was out, but we saw last week he was dominant and sort of got his form back that we know he can do. So if Rowan Marshall can deliver something that sort of 95 to 100, then he'll be in the hunt there with, like you said, Tom, Rory Laird against the Hawks is a nice one to come home with. Let's move on, boys, to another top 4. Well, the first one wasn't a top 4 matchup, but this one is. My God, your Liberatore up against McRae. You've done it again. 2nd versus 3rd, boys. Who are we thinking?
Huge matchup again. Not sounding like a broken record, but this for different reasons for the top 4. I think it'd be safe to say whoever wins this game is pretty much, I think, even mathematically, confirmed in the top 4. So plenty on the line. I think we'd have to say it's quite likely that both of these sides will probably be in the top 4, but for one of them, it's a good chance to seal the deal with that. Again, English coming back in for Hughes' side there, and I think I'm probably just leaning towards Hughes' side over Sam there, but. Yeah, pretty hard to split two very strong sides who are going to score well this week.
I think I'll go with Sam this week. Sorry, Rabs, just to, again, be opposed to you in opinion. But, looking at Sam's side, both Jackson and English on the bench there, ready to come back in, and probably a few guys like Neil, Miller, and Laird, who, all have the capacity to go enormous. So big ceiling there for Sam.
Yeah, I tend to agree. Again, similar to Liam, he's got those big dogs have got some really nice matchups. Took Miller versus Richmond, and like you said, Riley O'Brien and Laird up against Hawthorn, and then Doherty coming home against the Eagles. So plenty of room at Optus Stadium for those +6s for the Docs. So we'll move on to our next matchup, boys, and it's the B Sharps up against my boys in a crucial matchup here. If I can scrape a win here, be keeping my 8th spot, which would be nice. But if Dale can win, he puts himself right in the picture of that top 8. And if other results go the way they can, then that 8th spot is well and truly up for grabs, boys. What do you think is going to happen?
I think you win, Scott.
I really want to disagree with you, but I think you win too. I think your side's too good. I think it'll be close-ish, but I think you'll get the chocolates.
Yeah, Friday night looms large. McRae up against the Bont. Heaney, we know, is always, Isaac Heaney, he could go well. He more often than not disappoints. So we'll wait and see what happens. But Dale's side have got some nice guys there. Doherty versus the Eagles, as we've just touched on. And I think Himmelberg will bounce back against Port. Watching that game very closely on Sunday, they want the ball in his hands, so he'll be fine in some dry conditions here. Let's go to the Glen Mountain Fan Club. This week's pick of the week, Sean Newell's side up against the Guns and Rosies. Do we see the first loss for the Rosies or business as usual?
I think this is a genuine possibility for Sean. Just having a look through, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think this will be. I think this will be close. Looking at his side, Newley when you sort of compare the pods, he's got Butler as a rookie on field, but that should be nullified by the fact that he's got Cameron and English on the bench ready to swoop in there. So I think it's going to be close. You'd probably have to back Ben, but I do think that Sean is going to give him a good run for his money this week, if not take it.
Yeah, it's going to be very close. I'll side with Guns and Rosies just for the fact that, Sean had a massive week last week, and I'm not sure if some of those players can, perform to the same level again this week, 2 weeks in a row. There's probably a few in there that, are a little bit inconsistent in your Greshams and those types. So I'll, stick with the Guns and Rosies this week.
Fair enough, boys. Let's move on to the Burpin Burtons up against Total Eclipse of the Heart. The Burpins, you would say, need a win, should win, will win.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Let's move on. The Midsfielders up against the Keys. Now, this is an interesting one. We won't dive in too much into this one. Both sides well and truly outside of the 8, but you think the Keys to win?
Yes. Yeah. Could go either way, though, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think Jake, as we mentioned previously, has a reasonable side. Probably hasn't been able to get the premiums in that some other sides have been able to, but still goes reasonably deep. And I think we'll have, the cattle to get over the mids this week.
Perfect, boys. Now we head to our next matchup, another contender for match of the round. It is, of course, the Sisterhoods up against your boys, Tom. Phenomenal 5th v 6th, 2 of the informed teams of the comp. Rabs, we'll start with you and then we'll get Tom's thoughts. What do you see happening here, Rabs?
Great question, Scott. I feel like I can't win no matter what I say here, so just got to tread very carefully. Look, clearly it's going to be close. Two strong sides. Very important game for both. I believe I'm right when I say that they're both on the same win-loss record, I think. Maybe one different. Very, very tight anyway. So having a look through the sides, it's really hard to call. I'm going to lean slightly towards the Sisterhoods, but Tom will probably disagree with me as he has most of the night, so I might lean up.
No, so unsurprisingly or surprisingly, depending on which way you look at it, hasn't been too much fantasy chat this week at home. I'm not sure about on your end, Scott, so I might have to have a chat to my fellow assistant coach of the sisterhoods and see what sort of intel you have on the other end. But yeah, been very quiet on the fantasy front here this week. It'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. Both put our best teams on the park and see what happens.
No, very good. Oh, I love that. We will see. What a
Who are you tipping there, Scott?
Hey?
Who are you tipping there, Scott?
Who am I tipping?
Make a prediction.
Well, just having a look, Rory Laird again as a pod really stands out. Doc versus Walsh is going to be an intriguing battle, that last one. Isaac Heaney, a lot rides on that. So I'm going to go. I have to go the sisterhoods. Just. Just the sisterhoods. All right, Rabs, we'll talk about your matchup now. Up against Team GC, a danger game here for your boys.
Yeah, massively so. As I said earlier, my boys' interesting situation on the ladder, still ticking along quite well, but very poor in the points for column, so it could all come apart very easily if we drop a couple. So, yeah, very conscious that I think having a quick look at the maths, if I can win this week and without getting ahead of ourselves, got Peter G the week after, then I think that'll be enough to get us in if we can win those two games, because we've got the sisterhoods in the last game of the round, which is the last game of the season, which will be a tough clash. So very, very important game. But I think it's going to be really close. I think Zach's got a good side. He's actually scored more points than me this season, which is a fun fact considering he's 14th and I'm 7th.
Wow.
I think it'll be tight.
Yeah, fascinating matchup, this one. Look, just because we've been disagreeing all night, I'll go with Team GC. Seems to be hitting some form. Some unusual players in Redmond and the like just seems to be getting it done for him somehow. So, we'll watch with interest, but I'll side with Team GC. I like that stat from you, Rabs, that he's scored more points. We'll lean in his favour if that's the case.
It was a good one. All right, let's move on to our last matchup, boys, really quickly here. King Kunta up against Hoffleberry FC. The Hoffleberries to bounce back.
Yeah, probably. Loading.
Don't know. Not really that interested in this matchup, to be honest. At this stage of the season, it's a bit of a nothing matchup, so no disrespect to the coaches, but not really fussed which way this one goes.
Fair enough. And on that note, we will end this week's podcast. Thank you very much, Tom and Rabs, for joining me. Good luck and go well, everybody. We, of course, Thursday night footy tomorrow, which will be exciting. And then next Wednesday, we've got a bit of a special treat for you on the podcast, an international edition. So that's exciting and more details to come. All right. See you later.